Vader, immersed in thought as his cybernetic systems are calibrated by the repair droids, contemplates the price he has paid for his power. The memories of Mustafar still burn in his mind, but it is the physical limitations that torment him the most. Every movement in his armor is a constant reminder of his new reality, a body that is no longer completely his own. He feels the force of the Force flowing through him, but he also realizes that the suit, although powerful, restricts his mobility and agility. Listening to the mechanical sound of his breathing, he wonders whether this is all that remains of Anakin Skywalker, and whether, in time, he could transcend these limitations or whether he is doomed to live trapped in his own metal prison. When the Emperor's orders arrive, Vader finds himself assigned to a mission that awakens something deeper within him. Shaak Ti, one of the few surviving Jedi from the Great Purge, has become a thorn in the Empire's side. Felucia, with its exotic and treacherous landscapes, is the stage for a new confrontation. For Vader, this mission is not just another order to fulfill. It's an opportunity to confront someone who was once part of his old world. The scars left by the Jedi's betrayal still bleed inside him, and he sees this mission as a chance to erase yet another trace of Anakin Skywalker. However, he knows that Shaak Ti will not be an easy opponent, and Felucia, with its hostile flora and fauna, promises to be as dangerous as the Jedi themselves. Upon landing on Felucia, Vader is immediately engulfed by the density of the vegetation and the oppressive atmosphere. The Felucian warriors, fierce and adapted to the environment, ambush him from all directions. In the midst of the chaos, Shaak Ti appears, a shadow of what she once was, but still a formidable fighter. The duel between the two is fierce, a confrontation between the past and the present. Despite Vader's brute strength and enhanced skills, the Felucians and Shaak Ti manage to deliver devastating blows, seriously injuring him. The victory is bitter. Vader manages to defeat Shaak Ti and annihilate the rebel cell, but his body is left in tatters, exposing the vulnerabilities he so despises. He realizes that, despite his power, he is still limited by the machine that keeps him alive. While recovering, Vader explores the ruins of an old Republic outpost on Felucia and comes across what remains of the technology used to create General Grievous. He remembers the stories about the cybernetic warrior who, despite not having access to the Force, was a fearsome opponent for the Jedi. Looking at those pieces of armor and the advanced mechanisms, an idea begins to take shape in his mind. He realized that he could incorporate these enhancements into his own suit, overcoming the limitations imposed by his current cybernetic body. The obsession with power and self-sufficiency takes over his mind, and he decides that he will no longer be a prisoner of his armor. He will become something more, something that no Jedi or Sith has ever been. Determined to overcome his limitations, Vader travels to Megiddo, where he meets Mune engineers known for their expertise in cybernetics and biotechnology. He doesn't entrust this mission to anyone in the Empire, keeping it a secret from Palpatine himself. The Mune, motivated by fear and the promise of unlimited resources, accept the task. The surgery is complex and risky, involving the transfer of his brain into an entirely new, much more advanced cybernetic body. During the procedure, Vader flirts with death, experiencing an even deeper darkness. However, the relentless will to survive and his burning desire for power keep him going. When he finally awakens, he realizes that he has succeeded. His new cybernetic body is a masterpiece of engineering, agile, resilient, and, above all, free of the weaknesses of the past. Now, with a cybernetic body that not only sustains his life, but amplifies his abilities, Vader emerges as a more lethal version of himself. His outward appearance, carefully maintained so as not to arouse suspicion, hides the true power he now possesses. He tests his new limits and discovers that his connection to the Force has also been enhanced. The precision and speed of his movements, once limited, are now impeccable. Every gesture, every movement, is calculated and executed with deadly efficiency. He is no longer just a Sith Lord trapped in a survival suit. He has become the living embodiment of the power of the dark side, an unbeatable war machine. And with this new strength, he begins to question his place under Palpatine's command. Palpatine, ever attentive to changes in the Force, soon realizes the transformation in his apprentice. He senses a disturbance, a growing threat emanating from Vader, which seems to be beyond the control he had over the former Anakin Skywalker. With a mixture of fear and distrust, the Emperor decides to test Vader's loyalty and true power. To do so, he summons the Inquisitors, his elite Jedi hunters, to eliminate what he now sees as a possible threat to his reign. Palpatine, however, underestimates the power that Vader has acquired. The Inquisitors, however skilled, are not prepared to face someone who has transcended the limitations of the human body. They are sent to find Vader, but what they find is not the same Sith they knew. When the Inquisitors finally confront Vader, they believe they are facing a difficult but feasible task. However, the confrontation that follows is nothing short of a massacre. Without even drawing his lightsaber, Vader uses the Force in such a brutal and precise way that the Inquisitors are annihilated before they even understand what hit them. He disarms, immobilizes, and destroys them with frightening ease, demonstrating that he is not only a servant of the Force, but that he himself has become a manifestation of it. Through this crushing victory, Vader reaffirms to himself that there are no limits to his power, and that the Emperor may be underestimating what he is now capable of. This triumph, however, is not enough to quench his thirst for power. He knows that there is one last obstacle standing in his way: Palpatine. With the destruction of the Inquisitors, Vader decides it's time to confront the Emperor himself. He returns to Coruscant no longer as the submissive apprentice, but as an equal, ready to claim absolute power. Palpatine, sensing the inevitability of the confrontation, awaits him on the throne, confident in his ability to dominate anyone who challenges him. The duel between the two is titanic, a battle between masters of the dark side. However, Vader's new strength, combined with his determination and lack of remorse, makes him an opponent Palpatine didn't expect. The battle culminates in a decisive victory for Vader, who, instead of killing his former master, decides to imprison him in stasis. This decision is symbolic of his complete rise to power. There is no one left to challenge him, and the Emperor is now a captive of his own creation. With Palpatine out of the way, Vader assumes the throne of the Empire, declaring himself the new Emperor. He appoints Masameda, Palpatine's former ally, as his deputy, maintaining a facade of continuity in government so as not to destabilize the Empire. However, Vader's leadership is very different from that of his predecessor. He rules with an iron fist, without the need for political manipulation or subterfuge. Under his command, the Empire becomes an even more efficient war machine, ruthless in its expansion and control. The galaxy is gripped by an even deeper fear, for it is now led by someone who has transcended human weakness. And while the Empire thrives under his new leadership, Vader begins to lose what little remains of Anakin Skywalker within him. Over time, any trace of Anakin Skywalker is completely obliterated from Vader's consciousness. The young Jedi who once dreamed of bringing balance to the Force is now a distant memory, buried under the identity of the Dark Lord of the Sith. Vader does not allow feelings or memories of the past to influence his decisions. He rules with a calculated coldness, without mercy, crushing any resistance with implacable force. His actions are guided only by the relentless pursuit of order and absolute control. With a heart hardened by power, he becomes the true monster the Empire has always desired, a being who knows only the dark side of the Force and who refuses to look back at the man he once was. Aware of the potential threats to his reign, Vader orchestrates a series of operations to eliminate all those who might challenge him. Obi-Wan Kenobi, his former master, is the first to fall into a carefully planned trap. Luke and Leia, his own children, have now become targets on his way to securing total control of the galaxy. He feels no remorse in ordering the death of his own children, seeing them only as threats to his power. The remaining Jedi and anyone else with a connection to the Force are also hunted down ruthlessly. For Vader, the stability of his reign demands that there be no more rivals, and he vows to eradicate anyone who could bring back the ghost of Anakin Skywalker. When Vader finally confronts Obi-Wan, the duel is a battle of titans, a last chance for the former master to save what remains of Anakin. However, Vader, blinded by hatred and a desire for revenge, defeats Obi-Wan. But before he can strike the final blow, his former master surrenders to the Force, disappearing before his eyes. This act of sacrifice leaves a mark on Vader, but he quickly represses it. However, when he faces Luke, the fight turns out differently. After defeating his son, Luke, wounded and on the verge of death, looks at Vader and, with a sigh, calls him Father. The words are like a blade piercing the darkness inside Vader. "Help me, Anakin," Luke pleads, and at that moment, something inside Vader begins to give way. The name he had buried so deep now resurfaces, bringing with it a flood of emotions and memories that he believed had disappeared forever. Luke's plea triggers an internal war within Vader, a battle far fiercer than any physical confrontation. The light side of the Force, embodied in his son's words, begins to invade his spirit, breaking down the barriers he has erected over the years. The darkness that has consumed him for so long begins to dissipate, and Anakin Skywalker, the man he tried to kill inside, begins to resurface. The internal struggle is intense, and Vader finds himself torn between the identity he has built and the man he once was. Memories of Padme, Obi-Wan and his days as a Jedi begin to surface, mingling with the love he feels for Luke. The Force, which he once used only as a tool of power, now begins to guide him back to the path he abandoned. It's a painful but inevitable return. Vader, now reconciled with his true self as Anakin Skywalker, decides to use the power he has accumulated for a greater purpose. Together with Luke and under the guidance of Yoda's spirit, they begin to rebuild the Jedi Order, but with a new perspective, learning from the mistakes of the past. The new order is no longer rigid like the old one, but more understanding and aligned with the balance of the Force. Meanwhile, Leia, revealed as his daughter, takes the lead in rebuilding the Senate, uniting the systems under a new banner of peace and justice. The once dark Lord Vader now calls himself Anakin, who, now redeemed, works tirelessly to ensure that the sacrifice of so many was not in vain. Together, they plant the seeds of a new era, where the Force is used for good, and the galaxy finally begins to find the peace it has longed for.